The reason Islam is the truth, to answer the TTS, is because there's only one creator. Jesus did not exist when God created Jesus. Cut out the middleman. You don't pray to anybody else except God. That's why I'm...
And Muhammad, you literally say, peace be upon you, O Prophet, every time you're praying, which is basically every time someone's recording you pray. Surah 4, verse 65 says that you have to accept all of Muhammad's decisions and accept them with full submission. You can only, SNEAKO, you can only submit to your imaginary creator, Allah, by submitting to Muhammad. Boom, right there.
I'm Muslim because it's the only religion that makes logical sense. It's a logical explanation for things.
Where?
With Trinity, no matter how many times you try to describe it, makes absolutely no sense, bro.
Oh, really? Hey, but
no sense.
Yeah, but let me guess that God with two right arms and and one shin and little feet popping out of the end of his one shin, just hobbling around like that. That God who eternally breathes out his spirit and eternally speaks out his word, and then his spirit appears as a man and his word appears as a man, and then not only that, but the word that he speaks out, the Quran, actually is not just a pale man who appears at the judgment, but he also appears as individual flocks of birds for each chapter of the Quran. Each chapter of the Quran appears as a flock of birds that intercede with you the same way that Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat were believed to intercede by the pagans. So the pagans believe that Allah is the supreme God, but they believe that Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat were these intercessors. They could take your prayers up to Allah. So you had these bird goddesses who were your intercessors. Muhammad says, no, that's pagan, after he revealed it, saying, yes, they can intercede for you. That's the satanic verses. But then later on, he says that chapters of the Quran will be your intercessors. There'll be flocks of birds, and not just 3 bird goddesses. You'll have entire flocks of birds interceding with Allah for you. And so anyway, that just makes much more logical sense to SNEAKO. But guys, think even a little part of that. The Quran appears as a pale man. The Quran appears as a pale man to intercede for you. But within that one pale man are 114 flocks of birds, which are each intercessors for you. So 114 flocks of birds are all combined within the one, and they act as one. And what were you guys whining about with the Trinity here? What were you saying? Doesn't make sense? I'm interested. I'd be interested to know.
And a Christian in TTS earlier said, like, why are you Muslim? You want to know? For the people that want to know, look into who Paul the Apostle is.
What the heck? Wait, what? What the heck? Do you want to know why I'm a Muslim? Look into who Paul the Apostle was.
You want to know who wrote the most books in the Bible? It's Paul the Apostle. He was persecuting the early followers of Jesus before the Trinity existed, before this idea was...
What in the name of common sense does that have to do with? You want to know why I converted to Islam? Check out the Apostle Paul.
Paul the Apostle was killing early Jesus followers, and on the road to Damascus, really? And Paul gets this hit with this light in the sound, and he realizes, no, I'm no longer going to kill Jesus followers. I'm going to adopt Christianity and spread the church message around the world. This is who wrote the most books in the Bible. This is the number one contributor in the Bible, in the New Testament. And he was a Jew killing early Jesus followers. You want to know what? He never even met Jesus. Why is this guy the authority on Christianity? Why did he write most of the Christian religion without ever meeting Jesus?
David, did the followers of Jesus, whom he himself appointed as disciples and apostles, whom he gave his mission, did they follow Paul? Did they agree with Paul?
They definitely agreed with him. By the way, the Apostle Paul said he did meet Jesus. That's 1 Corinthians 9. If you go to the first 2 chapters of Galatians, Paul explained things. The Apostle Paul also believes that Satan can masquerade as an angel of light. So Paul's actually very careful. So eventually he goes up to meet with the apostles themselves in Jerusalem. And he says, and I laid out the gospel that I'd been preaching among the Gentiles for fear that I had been running in vain. In other words, he was ready to go up to Jerusalem. If they said, what are you talking about, dude? That's not the gospel. Where are you getting your revelations? He was ready to hang it up and say, I've been misled. Said instead, nope, the apostles agreed with him.
So wait a minute. You're saying that the Apostle Paul actually ran everything by the apostles whom Jesus himself appointed?
Yep.
And they approved of it?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And what's amazing there is... So you've got Paul, who receives revelations about Jesus, and he goes up and tests them. Why? Because he's actually in a really good spot to go check with eyewitnesses and so on. He's in a position to test his revelations to make sure they're actually true. Muhammad comes out of a cave. I got revelations. And then he eventually starts getting revelations about Jesus. But he's around a bunch of pagan polytheists. And it's amazing because all his revelations seem to be stolen from 3rd, 4th, 5th century Gnostic and apocryphal sources. And they start making fun of him, calling him the ear. And so SNEAKO's like, hey, that Apostle Paul guy, that guy who started off by attacking Christians because he definitely wasn't on the same page with them, that guy, after getting a vision and getting revelations and testing those revelations by conferring with Jesus' apostles, he got the stamp of approval from Jesus' original apostles saying, yep, this guy has true revelations. And he goes out and preaches. What kind of idiot's going to listen to that guy? You should instead listen to the Arab, the 7th century Arabian caravan robber who ended up ordering his followers to violently subjugate followers of Jesus. This is idiotic, man. This is like freaking Dawa, guys. This is what we're up against here. This level of stupid. And they're like, oh, well, great point. Oh, yeah, can't trust Paul. Oh, yeah.
It is Jesus himself who came and spoke to Paul, according to the text. So if you want to go by the story of the text, at least represent it correctly. Then you have the Apostle Paul going and presenting the gospel to the apostles of Jesus himself, who then approve of it and who acknowledge that he saw Jesus, that he has the gospel of Jesus, which he's spreading, that he is an apostle now. If he wants to say, oh, Paul never actually saw anything of significance and he never met Jesus, and wants to base that on his rejection of believing that Paul actually saw Jesus, then I wonder why he believes in Islam, when Islam relies on the idea that Muhammad saw the angel Gabriel in a cave. He should be applying that same skepticism to Islam and thereby doubting that Muhammad ever communicated with Allah or with his angels. Why doesn't he do that? Because he's not consistent.
Christianity, most of the religion is not Jesus' teachings.
Yes, they are.
SNEAKO, why are you Muslim? Why are you following Muhammad? Well, the Paul, I mean, God, my goodness, the Apostle Paul, I mean, God, the Trinity, I mean, the Paul, I mean, he wrote all these books, I mean, starting off the Christian person, I mean, Paul. What does that have to do with why you follow Muhammad, man? And I have to say, here's what he doesn't get. SNEAKO, Paul is roughly 487 billion times more reliable than Muhammad. And I made an entire video of this. I thought of 25 different ways you could compare Paul and Muhammad. And so this in terms of like morality, in terms of like miracles, all kinds of things, their intellectual abilities, knowing the relevant languages for being able to examine the teachings of Jesus and so on. Paul was more reliable than Muhammad in all 25 ways. Every single way I could compare them, Paul was more reliable. You put all that together, he is massively, like insanely more reliable than Muhammad. And you're saying, well, I can't trust Paul, therefore, let me trust the guy who's 487 billion times less reliable than him. That makes sense, SNEAKO, if you're extremely stupid, which you are.
This is a perfect example. I mean,
He listens to his teachings. Christianity, most of the religion is not Jesus' teachings. Jesus didn't do the sign of the cross and didn't.
what does the sign of the cross have to do with any of this?
This is a great example. Like he's a little familiar with Catholicism from growing up, and then he just reacts to that all the time.
Well, the Orthodox also do the sign of the cross, but it's like it shows his ignorance here of like, but in Christianity they do the sign of the cross.
Therefore, Islam.
Jesus
didn't do the sign of the cross. Therefore, Islam.
The Church, the Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, and others that also do the sign of the cross acknowledge that it is not a practice that literally, physically is commanded or started in the New Testament. It is a practice that started very early on. You have records of it in the 2nd century, where Christians generally trace the cross on their own bodies, or from their heads to their upper bodies. So it becomes a thing to identify themselves as Christians and as a reminder. So they start doing it in churches. And then within the church tradition, it becomes a thing that when God is mentioned, when the Trinity is mentioned, you do the sign of the cross. When you enter, you do the sign of the cross. You honor the cross. You honor God. You honor the Trinity. You honor Christianity and all that. But what in the world does it have to do with what is being talked about here? It's not like the Apostle Paul wrote down, and all Christians shall henceforth do the sign of the cross, despite the fact that Jesus never commanded any such thing. What is he even criticizing here? And as David just pointed out, what in the world does this have to do with the question, why did you become a Muslim?
Nothing.
This is so stupid, man.
And outline the prayers that is followed in the Catholic Church. Islam, the rules are created by Allah. You see that we have the Quran, and then we follow the Sunnah, the life of and sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
The Sunnah.
Oh, so a dude.
The Sunnah.
A dude.
The Sunnah.
The stuff that a dude said and did.
The Sunnah.
Yeah, that.
Stuff that was written down long after Muhammad's body was rotten in the ground.
Yep.
Stuff that was established as something to follow long after the pedophile rapist was dead and buried.
And SNEAKO.
Isn't that what he just criticized about Christianity, allegedly, in his poor understanding?
Yes. Hey, SNEAKO, how do you become a Muslim? How do you become a Muslim? By reciting the Shahada, right? Where does Allah say that Shahada?
Yeah.
Where does Allah say that? Where did Allah say all the things you're supposed to say during your prayers? Where did Allah say all the things you're supposed to do during the Hajj? These all come from a man, dude, a guy who's way less reliable than Paul. And where do your beliefs about Jesus come from? This guy. Stupid man.
Praying 5 times a day. This is an argument that Quran only Muslims make nowadays, or Quranists or Quran only Muslims make nowadays. They say we don't have to pray 5 times a day. Why do they say that? Because praying 5 times a day is not found in the Quran. It is something that is later on found in reports of Muhammad, written down long after the death of Muhammad, or preserved and then collected and authenticated long after the death of Muhammad. Rules and traditions established by humans long after the death of Muhammad. It's so ridiculous, man. It is so freaking ridiculous. When it comes to Christianity, and you want to acknowledge the sources, you have multiple people every single time witnessing the revelation. You have people witnessing the miracles. You have hundreds of people witnessing Jesus throughout his life, his death, his crucifixion, his resurrection, which even Bart Ehrman and others acknowledge. You have people witnessing all this stuff. You have people witnessing the miracles. You have people witnessing things. And then those people who witnessed it delivering to us further what Jesus said and Jesus taught. When it comes to Islam, you have nothing, man, nothing. You have this 7th century desert dweller lunatic who almost wanted to unalive himself, allegedly receiving revelations through an angel who wanted to choke him in the desert, in a cave. They choked me in the desert. And you have no witnesses at all to the miraculous nature of this. You have no witnesses to anything at all. You just trust that guy. And on top of that, centuries after that guy dies, a horrible death, you have humans come in and say things about him and then make rules, and that is the religion that you follow. You're not even aware of this. You don't have any standards. You think that Christianity is the very same thing that Islam actually is, because you're stupid and ignorant. Very, very bad. David, stop calling him stupid, man. Why are you so mean to people?
The way he prayed, the way he acted, it goes right to the source, the prophet. The majority of Christianity is not following Jesus at all. It's Paul, this Jew who was killing early followers of Jesus. When you make that connection and you realize that, wait, I'm supposed to be worshiping Jesus, I want to follow Jesus, I want to listen to his teachings, then why do I need this guy? He's not even a prophet. Why is this guy even an authority?
Good question. Why? Look at the Quran.
He's an apostle, dummy.
The Quran itself acknowledges that Jesus had disciples. Why did Jesus have disciples? Why not just follow Jesus?
Yeah. It's also pretty interesting how the early Muslim commentators gave the thumbs up to the Apostle Paul as well, because they realized if Allah in Surah 61 verse 14 said that he helped the true followers of Jesus until they became uppermost, and the Christians who became uppermost believed in Paul, they couldn't have gotten that wrong, because Allah was helping them. Allah was helping them get things right, and therefore they had to affirm Paul. Later on, Muslims realized, ooh, this stuff from the 1st century doesn't line up with Islam at all. What are we going to do here? We need to blame someone. So they blame the Apostle Paul. And now you have, like, anyone who's asked, why do you believe in Islam? The Apostle Paul. Why are you blaming Paul? Paul, according to SNEAKO, overpowered Allah. Allah, Surah 3, verse 55. Allah promises Jesus that he's going to take care of his followers until the day of resurrection. He's going to make them uppermost until the day of resurrection. That's a long time that Allah's promising to protect Jesus' followers. SNEAKO's story is the Apostle Paul came right in there and just ruined it all, and then tricked Allah into helping the wrong group become uppermost. That's what SNEAKO is telling us. So, AP, check this out, right? Just do the math here. Do the math here, everyone. Okay, so you've got Muhammad here. This is a guy SNEAKO says we need to listen to. We need to listen to what Muhammad said. But Muhammad is a slave and a prophet of the great God Allah. So there's Muhammad, and then there's the God of Muhammad. That's Allah. But according to SNEAKO, Allah was completely overpowered and crushed by the Apostle Paul, who completely thwarted Allah's plan, just smacked Allah around like a total ragdoll. But the Apostle Paul called himself a mere bondservant of the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, so you got Muhammad, his God is Allah. His God was completely overpowered and wrecked by the Apostle Paul, and the Apostle Paul is a mere bondservant of the risen Lord Jesus Christ via the transitive property. Who should we be listening to, SNEAKO? The guy at the very bottom, Muhammad? And I don't just mean like in the Zut sense he's at the bottom. I mean, he's at the bottom of this, like, why would we be listening to that guy who preached this God who completely got crushed by the Apostle Paul, who's a mere bondservant of the Lord Jesus Christ? Why wouldn't you go with the Lord Jesus Christ and not the least reliable person on the spectrum there? Stupid.
If you ask SNEAKO whether he's a Sunni Muslim or a Shia Muslim, he will say that he's a Sunni Muslim. Why is he a Sunni Muslim? Why not just follow Muhammad? Sunni Muslims are a branch that are contrary to the Shia Muslims. They established themselves as a branch according to a certain tradition of succession and of reports of things that Muhammad said and did and that you should do and should not do. A preservation of the Quran and a version of the Quran that you should read. A lineage of people that you should follow versus a lineage of people that you should not acknowledge or not follow. Why is he a Sunni Muslim? Why isn't he just a Mohammedan? Why doesn't he just follow Muhammad? In Sunni Islam, you should be following Islamic scholars who have established theological schools and jurisprudential schools. Why would you follow any of those things? Why not just follow Muhammad? Why do you not just follow Allah, considering that Muhammad is just the messenger, the prophet of Allah? He's only the messenger. Why do you follow the messenger instead of just following Allah? He just said it right here. He follows the Sunnah, the teachings, the practices of Muhammad, the messenger. He's called the messenger. He brings the message of Allah that you are supposed to follow. Why is he not just following the message that is being brought, but instead following the messenger, Muhammad? According to traditions that were written about him hundreds of years after Muhammad died. Rules made by his followers hundreds of years after Muhammad died. Why is he doing all of this? And it is actually bad in the sense that it should be bad from his perspective in Islam. It is not bad in Christianity at all. In Christianity starts this way, that Jesus comes and he very specifically and deliberately has or chooses disciples and apostles that he gives the message to, and they then write everything down and spread it everywhere. And people follow what they tell us about Jesus. And we believe in Jesus, who is God. It's all very, very simple. You believe in a religion that relies on people saying that, people deciding that you should follow something based on people deciding that you should follow this, based on people deciding that Muhammad said this and this and this and did this and this and this, based on the idea that Muhammad said and did this and this and this and this, because he received revelations in private, which nobody ever witnessed, from the Almighty Allah, which we are supposed to trust him on. What a fantastic religion by your standards, SNEAKO. What a fantastic religion.
We consider him a prophet, but he was hit with this light and the sound. Why did he write the majority of the New Testament?
He didn't write the majority of the New Testament. He wrote letters that were then considered part of the New Testament.
And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I don't want to admit I was wrong. You get hit with ego, and then you start deflecting. People get angry, and they don't want to admit that they were wrong. I didn't have a problem with this because at the time I had already kind of strayed away from Christianity, from Catholicism.
Shut up, SNEAKO. Shut up, SNEAKO. Shut up, SNEAKO. You had no idea about any of this. You thought the Council of Nicaea was a book that is in the Bible that was removed. SNEAKO, I don't want to make fun of you. I don't want to humiliate you. Actually, I do, because it's too easy, and I am kind of mean sometimes. You didn't even know until a year or two ago that you thought until 2 years ago that the Council of Nicaea is actually a book that was removed from the Bible. SNEAKO, you didn't know anything, SNEAKO. You didn't know any of these things. You didn't know anything about what the New Testament actually is. You were asked to quote something from the New Testament, and you were saying, what was you saying?
He was saying Matt 5, because it abbreviated it. He didn't know it was Matthew, and he didn't know how chapters and verses work, and he goes, it's Matt 5, because that's what it said on the screen. It was Matt 5.
SNEAKO, you didn't know any of these things. Please do not pretend now. I don't want to mock you for not knowing something, but please don't pretend that you actually knew these things. It's very, very dumb. It's very stupid.
Have you heard of the Council of Nicaea? There's been a lot of chapters that have been removed, and the Bible's been tampered and manipulated with a lot over the years. Well, they did remove the Council of Nicaea from the original Bible. A lot of people haven't read those parts of the Bible.
Yep.
Council of Nicaea. What are you? You're saying there's a book called the Council of Nicaea?
Yeah.
There's not no book called the Council of Nicaea.
It's not a whole book, but let's see.
That was powerful, man. SNEAKO. Yep. Dawa guys saw him and they said, oh, what a beautiful mark here, man. This guy's really, really gullible and stupid.
This is you, SNEAKO. Nobody believes that you actually understood the Christianity and then therefore left. Nobody actually believes this, SNEAKO. You thought the Council of Nicaea is a book that has been removed from the Bible, SNEAKO. SNEAKO, don't pretend, please, SNEAKO. SNEAKO, don't.
Because it didn't make sense. And then I learned about Islam. I realized that you worship the one true creator. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I always did. I always pray to God. So I don't need to, this is not a big jump. This is just very simple to me. And then I listened.
Why didn't you become a Jew? Why didn't you become a Jew? Why didn't you become a deist? Why didn't you just become a Unitarian? Why didn't you just become, I don't know, some guy who identifies as a monotheist? Why didn't you become one of the many other people who just think there is this one creator thing? Why didn't you just become a Taoist? Why didn't you become a Buddhist who said there is this one who say there is this one thing but we can't really define it? Or another Buddhist who actually does believe in the one God who created all things? Why didn't you become any of these other things? Why did you become a Muslim if that's the idea? Why didn't you become a Noahide? Why didn't you become any of these other things? Or why didn't you just get it together and become a Christian, SNEAKO, considering that you weren't actually a Christian before? Because Christians don't believe in multiple gods, SNEAKO. And Islam isn't just about believing in one God, SNEAKO. Islam is just a very perverted, a new version of having such an idea, SNEAKO.
I recommend other people too, but this idea, this tribalism and this racial identity that's pushed up.
Let's face it, he became a Muslim because Andrew Tate became a Muslim.
And you are correct, sir.
Thank you.
Everywhere, that's what holds so many people back. And people reinforcing it, they're preventing people from knowing the truth. They're preventing people from making it to heaven. They're preventing people from having pure guidance. And it's unfortunate because it's the most peace and serenity you're going to find. People all the time, they still say like, oh, you're grifting Islam. I hear this too. SNEAKO's not Muslim. He's not. It's like a LARP. It's like, dude, I've been Muslim for 3.5 years. I've been on multiple Umrahs. I go Jumu'ah every Friday. Like, I don't need to be like, no, I'm actually. But for anyone thinking that I'd be grifting Islam, how has it benefited my career at all? How has it benefited my...
Are you freaking serious, man? Is this guy serious right now? Is he really asking this question? How has it benefited me? Gosh, do I really have to answer that? Wow, man.
Experience as a content creator. Can't gamble. I have to limit haram content. I am part of the most...
Which he doesn't actually do.
Hated ideology in America by far. I get called a terrorist. This is part of the reason.
Yeah, as far as we can tell, SNEAKO hasn't given up any of this stuff. It's just you can't be public about it. And he's even been public about some of the stuff multiple times. And they just say, but he's new. He's new. So he doesn't know any better. So he's good to go. What the heck are you doing, man? I'd love to talk to you guys in the chat, but I'm legitimately interested in what made him just stand up randomly and start.
My headphones were caught in my chair. It was bothering me, finally.
You do one thing in life. You do live streams, and you still have like 5 problems every single live stream.
Yes.
And I'm banned everywhere. Get banned by the Australian government for being a neo-Nazi terrorist. They'd say everything they can to destroy my credibility.
Well, you are kind of a neo-Nazi terrorist. So.
To destroy me as a person. Being Muslim is the most hated thing you could be in this country, by far. There's nothing that's even close. They use anti-Muslim propaganda to justify war and to prop up this economy based off this Ponzi scheme petrol.
This is a dude. The reason he was, it was multiple things, but before his Australia trip, he was there with a group of people yelling the Khaybar, Khaybar chant.
Yeah.
That's about massacring Jews, and he's yelling it. Yeah. And so they banned him. And look at this. Simply being a Muslim got me banned. Oh my goodness, you imagine that? Calling for exterminating Jews got you banned, SNEAKO. Not Muslim. There are plenty of Muslims in Australia, SNEAKO.
You know what I think?
Take any random Muslim and see if he wants to take a trip to Australia and watch him not get stopped.
What I nowadays think sometimes is if people complain so much about, I am being hated in this, we as a group, we're being hated in this country and we're being mistreated in this country. We are not wanted in this country. I want to use my words very carefully now. But considering that they're completely wrong and that is not being done at all, I think we should just live up to their fantasies and just, deport them, send them somewhere else. They clearly don't seem to appreciate the luxury and the comfort and the tolerance that they have, that they receive. Of course, SNEAKO wouldn't be bothered by that, considering that he's a citizen, but the rest maybe. Or maybe he can be helped too with taking away his citizenship and sending him with them all. Why not? They clearly don't appreciate the hospitality, so kick them out.
It hasn't benefited me. It's benefited me in terms...
If I invited people into my home and hosted them and treated them so well and gave them everything, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. However, this is what I would do. If I invited people into my home and hosted them and gave them everything and treated them so well, gave them exactly what I get, treated them like they own the house, but in the end, they still kept insulting me and complaining that they're being mistreated by me, and they tried to contest the ownership of it, I would say, pack your bags, leave, and do not ever come back. If you're not out by the end of the day, I will forcibly remove you. That's how I would act. And I would probably do the same if I was in charge of a country. So,
In terms of peace, it's given me guidance. It's given me the straight path. I know what I'm supposed to do. Instead of straying away and worshiping others than God, now I know what makes sense of what I'm supposed to do. I have the clear rule book. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do as a person. And also I get all the benefits in the afterlife. This life is temporary. This life is a test. Everything in this life is a
you get to bang virgins, bang them virgins, banging all them virgins in the afterlife, banging all them beautiful virgins with big breasts, banging all them virgins with the transparent skin.
They don't have big breasts. They don't have big
virgins.
breasts. They have budding breasts. Budding.
Oh.
So budding breasts. They're at Tanner stage 2.
Zutkuya says, make AP the dictator of the UK. I agree with this completely. I think this needs to be done. Yeah, this needs to be done immediately. I will talk to the royal family and I will say, hey, give me control of this country and ownership over this country for 5 years. I will solve all of the problems and I promise I will give it back to you.
Yep. As long as you promise to give power back and not to wipe out anyone who challenges you after 5 years, then you're good. Just
And
make
after
that
5
promise.
years, I promise that I will give control of the country back unless extreme circumstances demand otherwise.